Bonn Park is supported by Microplay. Serving Waterloo Region for nearly 30 years, Microplay is more than a game store. It's more like a 20th century pop culture museum and a place where game enthusiasts can find a vast selection of new and used video games, systems, and collectibles from a variety of platform consoles like PlayStation, Xbox, and Nintendo. From new releases to hard-to-find imports, Microplay has something for every kind of gamer. From game accessories like amiibos, pop vinyl figures, and horror toys to classic board games, puzzles, t-shirts, and vinyl records. Then there's Microplay's diverse range of plush toys, from the Super Mario Bros. Series and The Legend of Zelda to Pokemon, Pikmin, and the Kirby All-Star Collection. Their friendly staff have a passion for video games, know their products, and show them off with pride. They also take trade-ins, so come on in and sell your video games for cash or store credit. Whether you're a retro game collector or eagerly anticipating the latest game release from the next generation consoles like Xbox One, PS4, or Nintendo Switch, expect to see gamers of all stripes at Microplay in Kitchener, Guelph, and Brantford. Bonn Park is supported by Four Corners Algonquin, authentic, original, off the beaten path. Located a short 5-hour drive from the region of Waterloo, Four Corners Algonquin Camping and Glamping is Algonquin Park's newest one-of-a-kind safari tent camping experience. Sport or rest, thrill or contemplation, bonding with friends or family, you'll find something to do for every ability, for every taste, and for every budget. Fall asleep in our king-size beds listening to the sounds of nature. Try our no-charge, self-guided itineraries, trail and beach accessible wheelchairs, and Fire Buddy program to help you get your nightly campfires crackling. View the Perseid meteor shower at our dark sky-friendly viewing location. Bring your own creature comforts or reserve them from our quartermaster shack and have them delivered right to your site. With a maximum of 40 guests on 90 acres, we are well equipped for new physical distancing requirements. Whether you are a camping novice or a camping ninja, check us out on Facebook or visit us at fourcornersalgonquin.ca to book your adventure.
Welcome to Bonn Park.
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 Welcome to Bonn Park. I'm Sara Geidlinger.
And I'm Marshall Ward.
And today we have Made by Maggie, also known as Maggie Laurin.
Yeah, Maggie's illustrative work is so strong and powerful, and it focuses on so many landmarks here in Waterloo Region.
Just the iconic images of places that we frequent or that are long gone by have been maybe torn down. Her artwork has really memorialized some of those older places.
Yeah, I think anybody who's lived here for a few decades, it will awaken some long dormant memories of these incredible spaces in our community. Let's bring Maggie in.
So, Maggie, thank you so much for joining us.
No worries.
Coming to meet two complete strangers.
In the middle of a pandemic.
Basically,
risking my life.
Basically, yep. But thank you so much. And thank you for dealing with our technical difficulties here. So we found you because we invited your brother, Joe Martz, to our podcast. And he also came to talk to two strangers in a house he didn't know. And just as he's leaving, he's like, "Oh, you should talk to my sister." And I said, "Who's she?" "Made by Maggie." I'm like, "Of course your sister is Made by Maggie. What is this gorgeous family of creators?" And we absolutely love your illustrations.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
They're so much fun. It's a fun little side hustle that I've just become very passionate about.
Did you have a front hustle? No way am I leaving that in. Did you? No way.
Well,
did you have a full-time day job before?
Yes. So I went to
professional softball player.
It's professional softball player. Yeah. No, didn't quite make that cut. I trained as a graphic designer. Went to post-secondary to become a graphic designer, like my brother Joe and our older brother John as well. Just a whole string of creatives in our family. Graphic designer turned marketing manager. And then this has kind of always been in the background, but becoming more and more on the foreground.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think you should stick with it.
Thanks.
We've seen some of your illustrations here tonight. One of the Ethel's Lounge sign, which is very special for me. I'm actually going to give that one to my uncle as a gift because he's from out of town. He just recently discovered that with us pre-COVID.
Nice.
And he absolutely loves it. And then I actually had you bring one for Marshall of the HiWay Market.
Yeah, I absolutely love the HiWay Market. I saw this at Gifted when I was going through, and I remember, I'm flipping through and there's KCI and there's Macintosh cleaners, and I have all these emotional feelings around these places when you see them. And then I saw the HiWay Market and my heart just filled with joy. I have so many awesome memories of that place, and you did such a beautiful job capturing it in a really simple way. And it really speaks to me. And that's interesting that that predates you, the HiWay Market.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So everything that you've explained about your feelings about that and how it brought out those feelings, that's kind of my whole shtick, so to speak. Like it's not any sort of ploy. Like it's just, I really love the idea that these buildings or different landmarks or different things that we see every day really have this emotional tie to a lot of people. And I think that's I am an emotional person myself. And I think growing up, my dad also a very emotional. Like we would have, like between my siblings and we would have a contest as to who could get him the most emotional gift to make him cry the most.
I love it.
So I think I know, it's not a think. I know that that's where it kind of all stems from. But I just love this, like hearing people's stories about the same building but having different and sometimes similar, very, very similar meanings to other people. And it brings back just the floodgates of memories and warm, fuzzy feelings. And it's nice to put these things on your walls and in your home, because it's just another way of displaying artwork, but with some personal meaning that isn't just a typical photograph.
You're storytelling.
Oh, thanks.
Right? There are drawings of iconic places around our town, and no one's going to walk by that in someone's house and just be like, that's nice. Mm-hmm. They're going to recognize it. They're going to say, what's this place?
Yeah.
Right? And that's going to open up that conversation. And just the drawings themselves, they're just immediately recognizable. You really capture the vibe kind of what that building was. I think that runs in your family.
Well, the one that really speaks to me is I went to KCI, and I would say that while I was a student there, I had no appreciation for KCI as far as the architecture went.
It's a beautiful building.
It's so nice.
Yeah, and Maggie did such an awesome job with that. It looks monolithic and powerful, and it actually reawakened some long dormant memories I had of sitting on the front steps that I hadn't thought of in ages. And it's so interesting because I can drive down King Street and really just be focused on King Street, not even look over at it.
Kind of have to be.
Yeah. But if it's presented in this way, in this really beautiful, minimal, clean way, you have this whole new appreciation for it. And that's so interesting. It's almost like your own life experience has to catch up before you're ready to look at something in a different way, if an artist can present it through different eyes.
And
sorry, go ahead.
What's nice about something like KCI, like any of the schools that I've done, is it kind of captures a lot of feelings for different people, be it like you were a student there who you had a great teacher who inspired a love of science that in you went in to become a scientist, and that just brings back some great memories. But then it could be a teacher that they got their first teaching job, or they did their whole teaching career there, and as a retirement gift now they have this on their wall, or of a teacher who got their first gig or their last gig, or whatever the case may be. I just really like the idea of the sentimental attachment to something.
And how did you get started? Like, I want to hear, you were probably always drawing, graphic design.
Yes.
But I want to hear, like, did you set out to capture these monuments, or did you like make one and get some good response? So
how it all started, when I was getting married, I wanted to do a gift for my parents and my in-laws at the rehearsal night, that we would give them something really sentimental and meaningful. Again, cue needing to make my dad cry.
I was going to ask, is this all to make your dad start bawling?
Totally one. So what I had done for each set of parents is I drew my parents' house and my husband's parents' house, so the homes that we grew up in. So drew those and then wrapped them, framed them, gave them to them, and with a nice note saying, like, thank you for giving us a home all these years, and really sentimental. But it was, as much as I did want my dad to cry, about it, it really truly was, I did mean every moment of it, because we both grew up in lovely homes, and we were very fortunate to have both like loving families. So we included a note just saying like, thank you for making a home for all of these years for us as we go on to make our own homes. So it was just a really nice, memorable thing, and my parents really enjoyed it. And then a couple years after that, maybe, so that kind of just sat dormant. A couple people have been like, you should do that for other people, and I'm like, I don't got time for this.
I got a job,
I'm a newlywed. I have so many plans. So then at a company that I was working for, it was a pet food company, and there was a silent auction happening, and they were asking other people to contribute prizes. And I said, hey, what if I did like a custom drawing of your pet? We work in a pet food company. People are going to be bananas over their pets. And it was kind of funny because the person organizing was like, if you really think people will go after that, sure. So I was like, well, I'm going to do it. So I did it. And then it became like a bidding war. And then I had people coming to my desk after the silent auction, like, oh, can I do that? Can I give you a side order? And it just exploded. And then a couple of people asked me about different houses. So I thought, okay, people like their dogs. Maybe I will do some more houses. And then somebody asked about a school, and it just kind of exploded. So,
and then do you find moving through the city, then you just start to pluck your own inspiration of things?
Yeah.
Like people are going to love this, or you're just like, I love the Ethel's Martini sign. I'm just going to draw that today.
So there's been a lot of requests that come in, but a large amount of it has just been me being like born and raised, deep roots in Kitchener, kind of knowing the nice older places that I know that will resonate with a lot of people. But there have been numerous requests, and I still get a lot of requests that come in. Sometimes it's hard to take all of them, because some of them, though it might be a really nice, it might hold a lot of memories and be a nice idea, it's not a really nice looking building, so then it won't translate well to a drawing. But
that's the graphic designer in you thinking.
So actually, on that note, so the Schneiders sign, somebody had asked for me to do the Schneiders building downtown before it got demolished. And I'm like, oh yeah, sure, no. This was like at a show. Yeah, sure, no problem. Like, email me, I'll add it to my list. And so then they emailed me, followed through, and I went downtown to take some pictures of the building for references. And I'm like, oh man, like, it's actually not a good looking building. Like, there's no grand staircase. There's no nothing.
No flat to the street.
Yeah, it's just a big sugar cube. Like, it was just nothing great. So then, and it was for like her father, who had like spent his whole career there. So then I suggested, what if we do the HiWay sign, and
which
then
is a landmark for everyone.
Yeah, so we'll do the HiWay sign, and then I'll put, instead of like the famous for quality, or like the neon sign, I would put his date or his name and the years of service.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So then I took that, and then like, I feel like anyone that I've brought this up with, like, it's such a beacon of like, you're almost home.
I was just thinking that. I was thinking, I'm waiting for my opportunity to tell her when I clicked it, because I'm going to tell you, there was a lot in my cart that I need to go back for. So I was like, I'm at 300, whatever. I need to go back and get some of these things later. But when I see that image, and especially your drawing, because it gives it that, somehow it's different than a photograph. You feel a little bit more connected for a line drawing. And that's what goes through my head. Oh, yeah. I'm almost home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was just, so I remember my husband coming in, and while I was working on this, and he's like, really? Like, kind of very supportive, but like, do you really think that this, and it's become my like top seller. I sell out of it at most shows. And it's, even when I was in a show in Toronto, I was at the One of a Kind show, and I had so many people who are from Toronto, from London, that still would also use that Schneider sign. So it's definitely a heavy Waterloo Region almost home sign, but even people from other directions were using it. And I had people come by that like who would see it, and they would tell me these stories about like, that they would use it if they were coming home from university to call their parents to let them know that they're almost home, or on their way home from the airport, or whatever. Like, they just had all these emotional,
spot it first.
Yeah, this whole emotional feeling, like, oh, we're almost at grandma's house. It wasn't just maybe necessarily almost home, but it was this whole emotional tie to a neon HiWay sign. And it was just, it's kind of a beautiful thing that kind of connects everyone. And I just love the stories that it brings out in people and the feelings.
I think a lot of your drawings are doing that.
What's your relationship with your brother Joe, the photographer? And
He's the worst. No.
do you see connections between the two of you in your work?
In a way, yes. Like we both, I think, have definitely deep roots in the region, and both, like, I think, are admirable of Kitchener, Waterloo, and both involved in our communities. And we have talked, I remember us talking about this years ago, about doing like a joint show almost, where he would do, so if he had a version of Seagram's, I would do my version of Seagram's beside.
Sign me up
and
when
then
shows are a thing
we
again.
would kind of do like a joint show in that regard. So I think we have a lot of similarities, but also in like very different ways too. But I think we both have an eye for capturing things in
unique ways.
Yeah,
I think so. And older brother John, did you say, is also creative?
He's an illustrator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we kind of all got this creative gene pumping through us, and yeah.
So is it emotional dad or super good cool mom that's creative, or both?
Both were very creative people. So my mother is like a very avid sewer and seamstress and like fabric artist. And then my dad, though not necessarily creative paper and pen, he was a landscape artist, I guess you could say. He was a landscaper, but he was also very creative in other ways, and maybe not your typical how you would look at someone and be, oh, you can draw, you're creative. But yeah. I
think a huge advantage to your work is you can remove the clutter when you create these pieces. And I think about how I tried to photograph recently Sunny's drive-in with the owner, Paul Nusis, in front.
Oh, she's got a drawing. Just get that.
Yeah, and I got some pretty good photos, and the signage is beautiful, and Paul's beautiful. But it's so hard not to get the fencing around the outside and all this stuff in the background.
Got to get pretty low.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's lots of hydro lines around there too.
Yeah.
That's a weird little spot that Sunny's is in, but it's very convenient.
Yeah, it is very convenient.
You have this incredible control over your work to be able to remove clutter.
Yeah. And there's been some times where like I will hum and haw over like if I'm doing a building or a landmark, if there's like something that's throwing it off a tiny bit, like I'm like, oh, this brick, like I really don't like how this brick is. It's just so I could just move it a little. But then I hum and haw, being like, oh my gosh, everyone's gonna notice that this brick is smidged over, and
but it's a representation of how you're seeing
for
it.
Sure.
But I agree with Marshall. Like you're not losing anything. If anything, you're putting the focus onto what that building or monument or iconic image is in our city.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I love the absence of color, except for a little bit.
Yes, those are my favorite.
Can you talk about the absence of color in your work and why you made that decision?
So I was just finding that I really have like this loose kind of whimsical style, and I would find if I was putting my color in how I like to do it, so I kind of like laying in color as if it's been screen printed that's been offset a little bit.
I love that. It's got that wonderful 50s, 60s vibe.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then I was finding if this sounds like I'm catering, but I would find when I was getting feedback at different shows that I'd be at, people would ask for it to be all in color. So I think as a general, like, to appease people, I was doing full color, but then I started bringing it back a bit to be like, no, I actually think this fits me better when I don't put in all the color, just do some highlights, and it just kind of adds to that whimsical look and gives me a bit more creative freedom. Like the HiWay Market one there, like I think it has such more of a punch with just a little bit of color added to the old sale signs. And same with the Ethel's Lounge, like it's just red and black.
Which is
what it is.
Recognizable.
But like I didn't add like gray tones for the shading and stuff like that. I think it just packs a bit more of a punch, and it makes it just stand out a bit more.
I have a few questions about your process. So now I really want to get into the nitty gritty of, are you pencil drawing? Are you in there with a tablet pen? Are you using, Procreate? Are you using Illustrator? Probably Illustrator. We know how much Joe likes Illustrator.
Big fan.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is I'll take photographs, or I'll have to find photographs, depending on the building. And then I pencil sketch just to kind of get my mind about the building, kind of get comfortable with it. Then I bring it in. It depends on where I am physically if I'm going to use a tablet and use Procreate.
Oh, like are you working at home?
Yeah,
elsewhere?
or if I'm in transit, or if I'm at my daughter's swimming lessons, or if I'm at home, then I work in Illustrator with a Wacom tablet. Otherwise, I'm using an iPad Pro with
I use the Wacom
Procreate.
too. I like it. Oh, so then you're using an iPad Pro with Procreate. Yeah. I haven't used that much, the Procreate, but I found it's almost like Adobe's Fresco kind of, like it's
very similar,
like freeform kind of. Yeah.
So then after I do like a bit of pencil sketching, then I will do more loose sketching in whichever software that I'm using at the time, and then once I'm happy with how my initial, and I do it all in blue, once I'm happy with how that is, then I put another layer on top and refine all my lines in black, and then add my color on a layer below all the black, so it kind of has a screen printed kind of look.
Are you ever perplexed by some of the maybe requests people have? I think about how I've always been fascinated by how Jimmy's Lunch is so highly revered on Victoria Street.
Love that sign.
I've never been in there myself, but I guess it has this long, loyal following.
Yeah.
But I always laugh at these places that like have done nothing to update their signage. And anyways, you're familiar with Jimmy's Lunch?
So I tried to go in once for lunch, but they have
lunch.
But like I feel like their service, it ended at like 1, and like on the daily it ends at 1, and so we showed up at like 10 to 1. I think, I could be wrong, but whatever time we came, they were closing down, so we had to leave. But my parents, going back to the emotional ties, my parents, one of their first dates was at Jimmy's Lunch.
Oh, that's adorable.
And so when someone had, I think if someone had requested it, I wouldn't have been opposed to putting it on my list, but it might not have been like bumped up, but because it had like, oh, my parents had a date there, so I had to do it because it just had more emotional ties, so that one got bumped up the list for me.
What about modern architecture? Like, are you able to spend a bit of time at the boardwalk and appreciate what you see around a big million square foot outdoor shopping plaza? Can you find...
So I've done a bulk barn before.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, great.
And you know what? That one was actually fun. It was for like a gift of someone who just bought a franchise of their own. I think that, anyway, it was a gift. And at first I was like, oh man, because I don't want to say no, because I like making people happy.
And work is work.
Yeah. And at first I was like, oh, the bulk barn, like, really? What am I going to do with this? But it ended up being so much fun because I don't know if they're still like this, they're advertising, but at the time when the order was placed, their whole window fronts were just like big shots of like jelly beans and nuts and like different candies and stuff. So that was actually turned out to be a lot of fun to draw because it was just drawing a bunch of just color elements of just the different recognizable candies and birdseed and stuff like that. So that ended up being a lot of fun to do. But for the most part, even when it comes to the schools, if I get an order of like a really nice school or request to have an older school done up, they're so much fun to draw. And they're just not as fun to draw when it's like a school that's only 5 years old.
Yeah.
And I find that even though schools that were built 150 years ago all kind of have like a similar look, the schools that are built in the last 5-ish years, they all have a similar look. They all look like almost the same school.
If they didn't have the wording out front, you wouldn't necessarily know.
So they aren't as fun, but I still like the idea. Like a one order came through recently for one of the newer schools, and then they wanted a custom part of it. They wanted the principal's office was on the main level. And I guess this principal there's some sort of inside joke with her light always being on. So, and she was retiring. So we put that office window with the light on, and that just kind of like these nice personal touches, even though I didn't love the drawing of the school necessarily. But it had a
special touch to it.
The meaning of it really is just what I'm kind of going after.
And I get bulk barn. That's a destination for my family.
Yeah.
And lots of fun just spending 20 minutes in there picking stuff out with the girls. And
have you been there post-pandemic?
Well, I heard that they were open, but they're going to be the ones putting stuff
They're
in
open.
bags
Yeah,
for
they
you.
escort you to
Yeah.
what you want, and they dish it out for you. I'm like, can we just do this all the time? This is great.
So here's why that's a problem, because when I get the bits and bites, I want
certain
more
types.
shreddies
Sure.
and not so many
Oh.
pretzels. I can't imagine telling someone,
I would like to
Go
tell
easy
you
on the
that's
pretzels.
wrong, but I get it.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I totally get it.
sorry, I don't scoop the bits and bites
No?
fairly.
You don't try and get all the crumbs from the bottom when you're scooping from the popcorn.
No.
That was perfect, Marshall. I love it. I want to ask a little bit about all of these stickers and decals and everything. You've got to be taking some humor from your
Oh my gosh.
mom of three life
Oh
right
yeah.
now.
So it all kind of, these stickers were just funny. Like we would be, if I was out with a group of girlfriends and we would be chatting about the trials of parenthood and motherhood. The horrors, quite accurate. And then it'd just be like, you should turn that into a sticker. Hey, how about turning that into a sticker? And I'm like, that should be a sticker. So the totally adequate mother.
That's the one I bought for myself.
Definitely. Definitely after a night out with just talking and chatting and just finding the humor in kind of the everyday life without being honest, but also not like still like it's very tongue-in-cheek. You're obviously still grateful to be a mother and happy, but you just poking fun at the hardships that it can be and the harder days and the easier days.
Yep.
But
I think it also it contains multitudes, actually.
Oh, yeah.
I don't read too much into it, but it's also okay to say, like, maybe I'm not the best at this, but I'm doing the best that I can, and we're all surviving, and we're having a good time when we can.
yeah.
I think Maggie's stickers also tie in really nice with the cards that Sylvia Horn chooses at Gifted.
Yes.
So when you discovered Gifted, you must have thought, what a great fit.
Yeah.
Eh?
Yeah. I actually remember going into her store. And if she's listening to this, I hope she remembers this and laughs. But I remember going into her store when my first was not even a year old. And it was the Oktoberfest opening ceremonies day. And I had a dirndl on and I needed to like run over. I think I had like a doctor's appointment or something. And then I had like a bit of time to spare without the baby. And then I remember it's probably my brother telling me about Gifted. And I'm like, my doctor's office was right near Gifted. So I'm like, I'm just going to pop in. I have this like little bit of time, but
You can't pop in there.
But I was in a dirndl and I was talking to her and I said, hey, I got like up the courage in a dirndl to be like, would you sell? Like, how does this work? I draw pictures. And then she like gave me her contact info. And then it was like months and months to get then the courage to do a follow up and then be like, hi, I don't know if you remember me, but I came in your store and I was wearing a dirndl and I draw pictures.
I love it.
But her store is amazing and it has such a nice selection and it's curated so beautifully and it's I'm so honored that I get to sell in her store.
How are you creating while being a mother of young children?
Yeah.
It's all about balance. I do a lot of work at night, which is okay because I like to stay up at late. But it's actually kind of been nice because my kids are always seeing me doing a creative thing. And I think that's a nice element for them to see. My husband is a financial planner. So very like bean counter, like we're very opposite in like right brain, left brain. And so I think it's nice to see him how he works, and it's nice to see how I work for them, for their perspective. And it's really nice because it's really nice to hear like my daughter when I overhear someone ask her what she wants to be and she's like, I want to be an artist like my mom.
I love it.
And I love watching her create things, and we've done like these joint drawings where I'll draw like a frame of a house and then split it into rooms, and then we each do a room, and it's kind of like this joint thing. And it's hard doing the side hustle with the 3 young kids, but it's just about finding this balance. And sometimes I can do it with the kids and incorporate like they're doing craft time while I'm doing craft time. But it's a balance, I'd say, overall.
It's tricky. We've talked about this a lot on here. I did it too. Marshall's worked from home and been a stay-at-home father too. And it's grueling sometimes because you do have deadlines and you do have payments and you do have accounting and
some days
creative
just
energy
more TV
could be low.
than others.
Exactly. But you get it done. Like I definitely don't regret those years at all. I think when Marshall asked me like, how did you do it all at that time, I said poorly.
When both of you are working with your kids doing art, don't you find it's children of a young age have some inherent understanding of composition much more than adults?
Yeah.
It's like, do you think they lose it when
We
get
lose
older? But,
all the good stuff.
but I mean,
as we
they
get older.
understand the concept of working big and filling up the page. Something happens along the way.
I think maybe it's like a confidence thing.
Where when you're little, you don't care.
You don't care.
No. Because you're perfect.
Yeah,
And
my daughter's school, every kid will have done a drawing of this is grade 1 I'm talking about, of a cardinal, and the cardinal fills up the page beautifully, and the composition's great, and it's amazing what they just inherently seem to know what to do. I know the teacher's telling them, giving them some guidance, but I mean, they're fearless, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think all kids are capable of art. I think everyone's capable of art. Some people say, I can't draw or whatever. I think you can learn a lot of the skills, but then I think there is a different subset of people, maybe the Martz family, who are just born with natural talent and a certain creative eye to see these things. But it could also be that you were exposed to a lot of creative things and had that.
Oh yeah, like just
upbringing.
my upbringing with my mom. Like I remember she would come into our classroom and do crafts with it, like the whole class. Like she would lead a themed craft with the whole class, and she would do this every year in, I don't know, up until maybe like grade 5-ish. And she was very creative and not necessarily in that typical like paintbrush painting creative, but she was very creative, very crafty. And I remember so many times crafting on her, like she'd be down at our level crafting with us. And I think it's just such a nice idea, and it's so many fond memories of just that, like one-on-one with a parent, and just kind of learning from them and collaborating with them. It's just kind of just these really lovely memories.
Yeah, I know. Even at my kids' ages, they're 12 and 14 now. So even at their ages, I have 2 daughters. If we accidentally get some time together, sometimes we plan alone time together, but if we accidentally get some time together, I can feel a certain amount of relief and openness that happens with them, because it's just that it's a special set aside time, even like I said, even if it's an accident, right?
Although we did talk a bit technically about the tools you use, what are the initial tools you use? Are you using markers like on sketchbook paper? Is that how you're...
It kind of depends on whatever's close by.
Crayons on a paper towel.
I have this art table that I have set aside for the children with all of their art supplies. Yet that doesn't seem to do, because they still always take my stuff. So it's really whatever I happen to grab. Sometimes it's Crayola. Sometimes it's a Sharpie.
Really?
Yeah.
Because my daughters, as teenagers, are very particular about the markers.
We've made them that mine with their pencils and the 2H, the HB, the whatever 2B, whatever. They're very possessive and insistent that they're using the right pencil.
Yeah, and we have to go to Curry's to get one particular.
Same. And then we end up leaving with 10
Great
Copics, and I'm like, how are we going to eat? Copic people,
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
I know, they add up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
White space is so important in your work. I'm looking at this HiWay Market piece you did, and you've got lots of big, it really takes up just the bottom half of the... Yeah, can you talk about the importance of white space?
Love white space, negative space.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it adds just kind of a certain dynamic to the piece, where it's not just front and center, just... especially with HiWay Market as a good example, it's a pretty basic building. But if you put it off center, bring it down a bit, have a lot of white space, it kind of just adds a little bit of dynamic elements to it, and just kind of changes its kind of feel.
So did you actually find any photos of HiWay Market? You did?
Yeah. The library, as well as just scouring Google for some images. And then for that one, in the photo reference I had for that building, there was nothing in the windows, like for those sale signs. But in other pictures that I would see of like newspaper ads of like the owner at the front and then the store in the background, you could tell there were those sale signs in the windows. Yeah. So I was looking up like what was the sale of what were the average prices of onions in whatever year, and that's how I came up with all the
that's perfect,
all the signage. So
And-
it's like historically accurate.
And you mentioned one-of-a-kind craft shows. How are those?
Intense. That was a lot. It was
So you're putting up money to get there,
yes.
right? And you're bringing all your wares, and you're like, here we go.
Yes, it
Let's
was.
see how this flies.
It was a lot. It was 10 full days, like 10-hour days, doing like standing, and every person that walked by, it was hi, and reciting your whole process. It was a lot.
It's hard to be on for that long.
It's very hard to be on for that long. And then I moved to Toronto for those 12 days all told.
I was going to ask, are you driving back and forth at this point? Or?
No,
Okay.
I just decided to move there. I thought it would just be the easiest thing. So a friend of mine, who's also a local Etsy seller, my friend of mine who is also a local maker, she has been in the show for the past, I think she said this was her 10th or 11th year at One of a Kind. So her and I shared a Airbnb and stayed in Toronto, and it took a lot out of me. And it was just even hard being away from like my very small family at the time, really close to the holidays, and it was a lot. But I mean, I'm very grateful. Like, it was kind of a bucket list item. It was a very big deal. I remember when I handed in my application for the show, like shaking at the post office, making sure everything was in that it needed to be in. And I'm very grateful for the opportunity. And
they're already popular. Like, you're going to get traffic.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
It's not going to be a dead day,
they're
right?
huge. Yeah, yeah. They're just huge. They're just, and all the amount of work that goes into one of the shows, and just to being surrounded by that much talent.
And you want to go and see stuff too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So my husband did come and free up so that I could go walking, or I would go, they had like a little lounge for all the artisans. So he would come and relieve me, and I would start getting custom orders that were coming in from that show. So I would go sit in the lounge and fulfill orders while he manned the booth.
Oh, wow. Yeah,
I think
that's a
one of
lot.
the strengths of that show is, well, first of all, unlike the Toronto Outdoor Art Exhibition at Nathan Phillips Square, you're not vulnerable to weather.
Yes.
So you're indoors, you're going to be good to go.
Especially with paper art. Yeah.
It's
Oh my
they're,
gosh.
they're at this point incredibly selective in who they let in because it's so huge. And like Sarah mentioned, you're guaranteed tons of traffic coming through. So I know you have to put a lot of money and investment
Yeah.
up front. But,
And
yeah.
it's worth it. Like, I'm just the other day, I still got some requests for a couple custom orders and another shop in Toronto to do some wholesaling, and they would start off the email being like, "Hi, I don't even remember me, but I met you at One of a Kind." You're right, don't remember you because there's so many people, but thank you so much. Like, it's so nice. Like, 7 months later to still get people coming to me. It's such a nice feeling. It's just kind of humbling.
And that you've got fans.
Yeah.
So Meg, what would you do? Like, for example, my father worked at Labatt's Brewery for 30 plus years.
Yeah.
Now there's something I find really hard to find any photos of. for
I've got
some
a picture
reason.
in my mind because of being
Yeah,
right there.
me too. Again,
Yeah.
it's kind of like Schneiders, like a great big cube.
Yeah.
But still, have you found yourself challenged by that, where somebody would really love a drawing, but there just isn't anything to work from?
Yeah. I kind of felt like that with Schneiders a bit, hence the sign. So I think for Labatt's, if there wasn't anything decent photo-wise, it could kind of be nice to take like whatever the year that he was working or retired or whatever the case may be, to do like a drawing of the beer bottle with that label of the time and kind of make it a bit.
It was a very simple logo then too, with the very
Mm-hmm.
plain font. I have a question about your paper. So do you print, or do you have a printer?
I have a local printer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like in town.
In town.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I will, as things have gotten bigger and I've had to like put in large orders. So I have a whole like system at home where everything is in filing cabinets, where I have it like alphabetized and I have a big stock of everything. Whereas when I was just starting out, I would just shoot off to my printer. I need 4 of these, 1 of these. But now it's like, I need 40 of these ones, 25 of this one. And so it's kind of cool to see this like thing just kind of growing, and it's really fun. Yeah.
That sounds fun.
I have one last question for Maggie.
Okay, go ahead. I have lots, so keep going.
Yeah,
Remember,
you
we
do.
started late. But
What about funeral homes, or even like the crematorium at Parkview Cemetery? Anything of that
Where did
nature?
this come
Yeah. No, I think about Rats and Bechtel. It's like
I know.
beautiful.
it's being turned
architecture.
into something. No, not red.
Yeah.
Ratzenbethel is being turned into like the station crossing
Yeah.
Midtown or whatever. But isn't...
Oh, there's another one. The white one? No, that one got turned into a
one down
clinic.
by the brick. I can't think of... I'm having a day take. Herb Good.
Yeah.
Herb Art.
My wedding photos were done on their front porch.
It's a nice building, though. Edward R. Good? What? I don't know. Now I'm just making things up.
No, I know which one you mean.
Urban Good?
It's
Urban Good.
It's
Urban Good.
Yeah.
Wait, why didn't you stop me? I just kept going.
Urban Good.
All right.
Solid.
So back to Marshall's question. Did you want to react?
Yeah. Okay. Let me start that over. So Maggie, as we start to wrap up soon, I wanted to ask you about funeral homes.
Nice ending.
Have you done many? And the one I think about in particular is Ratzenbechtel, which just is gorgeous.
It's so beautiful. I've never been asked about funeral homes. I have at one point thought of doing a particular funeral home at the time and I was going to send it to the owner of that particular funeral home. When my dad passed away, very suddenly, the owner of this funeral, he was just so lovely, and I thought, I just need to maybe just give this to him and he can hang it up in his office or something. I don't know, but he was just so lovely. I thought I would do that as a personal thank you. But other than that, I haven't actually thought of funeral homes.
No, it's going to be stuck in your mind. That's a nice thought, though.
Because it's even as an even if you had no ties to that funeral home, the Ratzenbechtel, that's when Urban Good, yeah. So even if no ties, if you're just a lover of architecture, it would just be a nice piece.
I had a couple questions. I'm really changing gears here. Back to the stickers and the decals. There's a couple that have some crazy 80s vibes that I remember. I get a reaction when I think of these. So is it so cheesy?
There was one there's always grilled cheese.
Oh, that's it. Oh, I don't know why I thought so cheesy.
That one came from another, chatting with a good friend of mine, another fellow mother, who were like, I don't know what to make for supper. I don't want to make for lunch. Mm-hmm. Well, there's always grilled cheese. You're having a crappy day? Make some grilled cheese. You're having a great day? Grilled cheese.
That's a perfect answer, actually. The roundness of the letters and how they're almost melting. That really reminds me of 80s illustration in the books that I would have read. I don't know if you're familiar with Vivian Green. She had a set of books. Then they had a lot of that kind of feel to it. And then the one that's, I think it's Cool Mom.
Yeah.
And that's very Saved by the Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one is perfect. Yeah. And are you mining back into your memories of this stuff, or is it going in to look at what was happening then? I
think, kind of going back into thinking of an age group of current moms right now, and kind of going back to see maybe when they were teenagers or preteens, of what was kind of trendy, to kind of bring that back into something now. Or I remember another sticker that I've done, or decal, is the Northern Getaway, Northern Reflections.
Yes.
With the loon, took that, and instead of saying Northern Reflections, says official mom uniform.
Just so true. I love it.
So just kind of bringing back these little memories, tidbits of memories, poking fun of them a little bit, but something that kind of just resonates with so many people.
And I also saw online right now you have downloadable or printable end of year school certificates for the child and the parent. You made it. You fill it out. That's fantastic. And they're really cute too.
I made some for students that teachers could use, and that was on another sub-site that I'm on. And then it would be kind of a friend of mine said, you should have some for teachers and for parents who had to go through this, kind of funny and done.
Yep.
Yeah. So a lot of it, it's collaboration. It's a lot of some people throw some ideas at me and kind of make things work. And it's a solo project, a side hustle, but as much as it's also a collaboration of efforts.
A part of community too, right? And people telling you their stories and sharing those ideas with you. Yeah. So where can everybody find you?
So on Instagram, it's made by and then _ Maggie, MAGGIE. And then Etsy, it is MBM Illustration. But then, you can find me on Facebook as well under Made by Maggie, and then all the links to different Etsy sites and stuff are all within that realm.
Thank you so much for coming.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it was such a pleasure to meet you.
Great to meet you. I love hearing about your process.
It was worth risking my life in the pandemic.
And because we're strangers.
Let's get some grilled cheese.
Or go to Jimmy's Lunch.
Yeah. I could use a grilled cheese right now, but I could always use one. I have to actively talk myself out of making grilled cheese most of the time. Well, just because, sometimes you need a salad or,
side salad.
A smoothie or something. Yeah, side salad with the grilled cheese. But it's on my mind probably daily or every other day. Is it on yours?
It's a winner.
Yeah, I love grilled cheese.
Yeah.
But yeah, it has to be like cheddar or something of that nature. I had one with Havarti and it just
it
didn't
doesn't
do
taste the
it
same.
for
It's
me.
not like
I'll eat it.
stretchy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I recently had a grilled cheese made with like the Kraft singles, and that made me feel like childhood.
Yeah.
Where you like sear the edges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I'm having a memory of my mom making crab dinner with cut up like wieners.
Oh yeah, I still do that.
Do you still do
Yeah.
it? Yeah. Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And ketchup and a pickle.
Oh, I didn't do the pickle part.
Always ketchup. There's no other way to eat it.
Thanks, Maggie.
No, thank you.
This is so fun. That went by so fast. Hey all, thanks for meeting us in Bonn Park. Please like, rate, and subscribe to our podcast on the platform that you're listening to. And follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Bonn Park Podcast. Original music by Alan Lung.